Coming up on this episode of Region Automotive, we negotiate a big bill, do a bunch of services like flushing the brake system, struggling to change a belt, replacing some filters, wipers, and finally, I ask for your guys' opinion. My name is Jeremy, this is Region Automotive, and let's get to work. Okay, so here we have our vehicle in question. So my customer came to me on this one and they got a bill. I say customers is my wife's cousin, actually, cousin-in-law. So they know that like I'm in the business and they want to support my business before you guys give me flack for charging him to do the work. But, you know, obviously this is a weekday, it's a Monday. I have other stuff I'm doing, but I'm not doing that stuff to work on his car. We got a little laundry list of work to do, so I think it's justified to charge him to do the work because obviously my time's worth something as well. So anyway, long story short, this is a 2017 Subaru Forester. He took it to the dealer for routine checkup, maintenance, whatever. I think they're changing the tires actually, maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, he had it at the dealer, and of course they did the old maintenance inspection and just gave him an absolutely ridiculous bill to do all this work on this car. In my opinion, some of this stuff is daylight robbery, and it's just not good how dealers get away with it. And I try to help people as much as I can just to save them costs, you know, because like we'll go over my costs here, and I think that's like $650 versus the dealer wants $1,700 for all that work. I'm not doing 2 repairs today, so that's, what is that, $315, so around $1,400 versus $650. So I'm like under half the cost for the dealer to do all this stuff. Yeah, so first and foremost, they want to do an oil change, which I agree with that. It's been a while. $142 versus me, I'm going to charge them $125. Engine air filter, actually their cost was pretty reasonable on that at $37. My air filter, that's how much it cost me actually, so I'm just charging $50 for that guy. Cabin air filter, not too bad at $90. My cabin air filter is about the same cost as the engine filter, but it's a little bit of labor to get to it, so $75 for that one. Brake flush, they thought it was dirty. They wanted to flush the brakes. That's a little high. That's kind of teetering at $250. I think I can get it done for $125. Serpentine belt, same thing. That's kind of teetering. That's an hour and a half or whatever, plus parts. I think I can get it done at $125. EFI service, this is the big one that I think is complete robbery. Originally I was thinking like, hey, maybe they're replacing the fuel filter, but I read the quote and they're just cleaning the injection system. So what's that even mean? You know, like they're not going to take out the fuel injectors and use an ultrasonic cleaner or something, clean the individual injectors. I'm pretty sure they're just going to use some sort of flush, and that's what I'm going to do. And then they also said they're going to clean the throttle body, and they're going to charge $372 for that, which is, in my opinion, that's crazy. Like, I'm going to charge $75. I'm going to flush out the injectors, and then I'll take the throttle body off. And my bet is it's going to be like clean as a whistle, but we'll see. But I'll take it off and you know, just clean it just in case. They wanted to replace a PCV valve as preventative maintenance, $115. I don't agree with that unless the valve is actually giving issues. So I'm going to inspect the valve and I'll show you how I do that. You know, I don't like throwing parts at a car unless they actually need to be replaced. Wiper blades, that I agree with. I actually drove the car to my shop here and there's quite a bit of streaks in the windshield. So the wiper blades are getting old and used. That is actually a fair price, I think. I'll give them that. Like for all 3 blades, they're going to charge $61. I couldn't even buy the blades for that much, so I'm charging $75 for all 3. That's the front, driver, passenger, rear. And same thing, because the car has no history of a wheel limit, they wanted to charge them $200 to do that. Same thing, I'm going to inspect the suspension and the wear on the tires. And yeah, like obviously I can't do the wheel alignment here, but I told them I would inspect it, and I'll show you how I do that. And if I think the tires are wearing unevenly or the suspension starting to sag or wear a little bit, then I'll recommend a shop that he can take it to get the alignment done separately. So all these costs, they wanted to hit him with a $1,700 bill. Like I said, I'm going to charge $650 for all this stuff. I'm going to do it in order of what I think it'll take me the most time to the least amount of time. So the most time, actually I'm going to see if I can do that because I don't have the wheel lock key. So I'm going to lift it up and see if I'm able to access the brake bleeding nipples without taking the wheels off. And if not, then we're not going to do that today. So anyway, what I expect me to take the most amount of time if I do it today. Second would be the serpentine belt. Next probably would be maybe inspecting PCV. I'll probably do the PCV system, EFI service, oil change, cabin air filter, that'll all be under, or sorry, engine air filter, that'll all be under the hood. Cabin air filter next, and then wiper blades last probably. So let's get this up in the air and see if I'm able to flush or bleed the brakes without taking the wheels off, because yeah, it has a special wheel lock key and they misplaced it. And that is one benefit. The dealer would have all those keys and I don't have it. So if I can't bleed the brakes without getting the wheels off, then we're not doing it today. The brake bleeders were quite accessible actually with the wheels on, which is great. And the one that I did here wasn't C, so that's good. So I'm hoping, just looking at that, I'll probably spray a little bit of penetrant there now so it can soak, but that should be okay. So anyway, what I have set up here is I broke that bleeder loose. I found a hose that was slipped over the bleeder nipple there, and then I tightened it with a hose clamp. Then I ran the hose into a bottle here, filled brake fluid up so it's submerging the bottom of the hose, or bottom of the hose, and then I crack that open, and then I'm gonna lower the car, suck all the brake fluid out of the reservoir, fill it with fresh fluid, and then I'll probably pump the pedal, I don't know, 10 or 15 times to get all that old fluid through the line. And let's take a look at this fluid afterwards and see how dirty it is, how dirty the fluid really was. So just looking at the brake fluid, I'll have to give the dealership that one. They recommend to replace it because it'll look dirty. Now I have the light on it. Looks a little dirty, but not too bad. But anyway, regardless, we'll suck that fluid out, fill it up with fresh fluid, and then pump the brakes like I said. So we got the old fluid sucked out of there, and then fresh fluid, as you can see, right to the brim there. So I'm gonna maintain, like obviously once we pump it, it'll go down. So I'm not too worried about being past the max mark, but I'll maintain this staying full. Then I'm gonna go inside it and pump the pedal, like I said, 10 or 15 times to run the clean fluid through all the way through to that back line. Oh, that's from before. Yeah, it's just noticing. I was gonna say how much I like this little trick with the hose clamp there to keep that hose on there. I did crack the bleeder before, so that extra fluid that you see there, because there's no fresh fluid coming out of the hose. So I'll just spray that all down with brake clean once I'm done. But I pumped the brakes 20 times, and I think the bottle was about this high when we started, so we actually displaced quite a bit of fluid, which is good. So I'm confident that all the dirty fluid from the reservoir to this caliper has been pushed through. The fluid's really not that dirty looking at it, but it's not a bad service to do. So I'm confident that, like I said, we displaced enough fluid to get all the dirty fluid out of the line. So I'm just going to rinse and repeat for all the other brake calipers. I guess for this guy, since it's far away, I'll probably pump that 20 times. Then the front guys, they're a lot closer to the reservoir, so I'll probably pump that 10 times. So anyway, I'll get that done, and then our brake flush is done. So we got all 4 corners bled, and the fluid's looking nice and clean. And yeah, I pumped 20 times on each wheel on the rear and then 15 times. So I'm pretty confident we got all that old fluid out of there and clean fluid in. So let's put this back on. Now we'll do our under hood stuff. And I must admit, these non-turbo Subarus seem pretty easy to work on so far. Like our serpentine belt, it's only on one side of the engine actually. Let me get the light on there. It's only on one side of the engine. You have the crank there, tensioner, idler, whatever, AC alternator, and it doesn't route where it's like a little bit more tight back there. So to do our belt, I think it's gonna be quite easy. I'm just gonna take this cover off, and whatever one is the tensioner, detension that. The reason why they wanted to replace it, they're saying it's getting old and cracked, So let's get it off, and then we'll check in between the ribs of the belt and see how dry and cracked it really is. And then while we're under here, we're gonna do the rest of our under hood stuff. So I'm gonna take the throttle body off. I think I might take the intake off first and then take a look at the throttle body before I take it off. Replace the air filter, and then I'll find wherever the PCV valve is and take a look at that. So I got that little cover off with that 10 mil bolt there, and it just popped off. Like I say, in the belt routing looks relatively simple, so I'm just going to take a quick look at it so I don't have to pull up a diagram later. And then this is our tensioner here, which is a 14 mil, so we'll just loosen the belt off. Like so. Yeah, so here's our old belt. I think that was yeah. I mean, it does look old, but I don't see any dry rotting even between the ribs of the belt. So I think that was just an up service on that one, but if you can see, come on. Yeah, like I said, I think that was an up service on that one. I probably wouldn't have touched it if it's my vehicle, but obviously we're not going to return the belt. So while we're here, we'll do the belt. I mean, it's good maintenance, but yeah, I don't see any issues with this belt. Let's check our belt lengths. Looks pretty close, so let's just throw it on there. Maybe. They're the same length, so I guess I do have to get a belt routing diagram. Let's try this one more time. All right, I was a little worried that I may have gotten the wrong belt, but I double checked my length again, and then I rewatched the video to get the routing actually. So now that I have the proper routing, this should just go right on. Just like, baby, come on. Now it's too tight. Come on. Sometimes these belts are a pain in the you-know-what. And I was just saying how simple the routing is, which it is, but it's just a pain getting it all lined up sometimes. Okay. I think that's all lined up. Maybe. So once I release that pin on the tensioner, we should be good. Let's try. Okay, so after the 7th try, I finally got the belt lined up. I'm just gonna take a little bit of pressure off, just double check all the grooves are lined up, which I think they are. Good. Okay, yeah, that was harder than it needed to be for a simple belt routing diagram, but that's usually how it goes when you do belts. But yeah, anyway, it's all good. Everything's lined up, everything's tight. I may start the car just to make sure it's not squeaking, it's lined up properly on all of our pulleys and stuff there. And then I'm going to do one check for the PCV valve, which is I'm going to take this oil cap off and see if we have excess pressure coming out of the crankcase. So our belt's not squeaking, so that's good. So like I said, I'm just going to take this cap off. And it's under vacuum, which is good. That's what you want. Like I feel a little bit of moving air, but it seems like it's sucking inwards, which is good. So, you know, a bad PCV, this oil cap would be freaking flying off there. So I think that's just fine. But we're gonna see if we can find the PCB and actually take it off and clean it up. But for now, our belt is good. Okay, so next up, while we're up here, we might as well get the air filter and the oil filter changed. Like I said, these naturally aspirated Subarus actually are pretty easy to work on. This is loose. Nope, I'll get a pair of pliers or oil filter wrench for that. It's easy to work on in the sense like this is a great location if you have a seized filter. Maybe this wants to work. Nope, let me grab my pliers. I'm sure as we all know, obviously that's not the car's fault for this filter. There you go, being tight. But again, if I had to deal with a seized filter, this is a good location to deal with one. Now you guys can see why I like these big channel locks so much. That's on there pretty tight actually. I didn't expect there to be oil in there. I might let that drain down for a sec because I just ran the car. That's surprising that there's oil in there. So I'm gonna let that drain down for a second. I'll do the air filter first. So was recommending air filter replacement and upcharge. Nope, not on this one. You can actually see how good of a job the air filter does. Here's the dirty side, like facing like towards the bumper, so the air comes in this way. And there's actually a cigarette butt in there, so that's really good that we're replacing that. So then obviously the air hits there, gets filtered through, and then you can see on the filtered side how white and clean that is. So that just shows how good of a job an air filter does. And yeah, definitely a good thing the dealer recommended replacing this. This is definitely filthy. There you go. Thought that was gonna take me longer than the frickin' belt to do. I'm gonna leave this off for now, plug this back in, because I do want to take this off. Still have to find our PCV valve, and then I may take off our throttle body to clean that. Let's see how this is doing. Just use some dirty old rags here to soak up that oil that collected in the filter tray there. Fresh oil on our seal here. Hand tight so it's not seized for the next guy. That's good right there. Okay, so I'm gonna take this intake tube off, like I said, because this has the coolant lines that goes to the throttle body. So I don't think I'm gonna take the throttle body off because I don't wanna crack that coolant line. But I'm still gonna take this off, take a look at the throttle body blade. If it's super dirty, which I don't think it will be, I'll take it off and clean the throttle body. But if not, I'll probably just, yeah, I'll just get a rag, maybe spray some brake cleaner, WD-40 or something, and just clean the blade of the throttle body. All right, how's our throttle body look? You guys tell me, because I can't see right now. I'm gonna look at this video afterwards or put a mirror in there. So I watched that video that you guys just watched, and actually did look like there's a little bit of carbon around the blade of the throttle body. So I just ended up pulling it back. I still left the coolant lines connected, and then I just cleaned the back of that blade nice and good. So I'll give the dealer that one. That was a little dirty, but again, not $330 worth of labor there. Later, we'll dump that stuff in the gas tank, and that will be the end of our fuel injection service. And then another thing for the dealer, fine, the PCV valve, I pulled it out. The ball moves, the ball does move, not as free as I'd like, actually. So I found some carb cleaner in the shop here. I use that, I just dipped a rag in that and then wiped the blade of the throttle body. So I think I will just drop this PCV valve in there, let that soak while I lift this up and drain the oil. Okay, so I got our PCV valve nice and cleaned and I tested it. And one way that I tested it is I blew air so I can feel air coming out. It's opening up the valve. And then if I blow it in the other side, no air goes through. So it's closing that little poppet inside the valve. So I'm confident that's sealing. And then I also took a little screwdriver and just press down. There's a little spring in there on that valve or poppet. And yeah, that presses and that returns, no problem. That's not filled with oil, sludge, or gunk or anything like that. So I'm confident putting this valve, serviced, quote unquote, serviced PCV valve back in the vehicle. And then as far as this goes, I'm going to get that all back together. I drained the oil already. I'm going to fill it up with fresh oil, and then I'll lift it up and just double check my drain plug, and I'll check the filter to make sure there's no leaks. So I have the vehicle up in the air here, and one thing I do when I change oil, I like to lift it up and just check that the drain plug's not leaking oil, which it looks like we're not here. So I'm going to put this plastic cover on and then do our fuel injection service. All right, are you ready for our big fancy $372 fuel injection service? Done. I honestly wonder, like, comment down below if you guys work at a dealership or a mechanic and know what's involved with that fuel injection service. Like I said, I was wondering if they replaced the fuel filter, but they didn't specify that in the paperwork. It literally just said fuel injector cleaner. So I put some of that stuff to clean the injectors, and then as you saw, I cleaned the throttle body and the PCV valve. Otherwise, like, I don't know what else is involved with the fuel injection service. So time for one of our last services here on the exterior. So for our last maintenance item here, doing the cabin air filter, and to do that I just popped the glove box out there. Wasn't too hard to get out. And then the cabin air filter, I really like actually when these cars, they're pretty accessible, like the air filter, and then you have the blower motor if you ever need to service that. Looks like you have some of the blend door stuff there. I'm curious though where the heater core is on this thing. Hopefully it never needs to be done on this vehicle. But anyway, the dealer actually wasn't too far off recommending that service as well. It's definitely the original filter to the vehicle. It's 2017, so it's 8 years old. And yeah, you can just see 8 years of dust and crap and leaves. And it is kind of interesting, again, to see dirty side of the filter, clean side of the filter. So you just see how effective it is having those filters filtering the air for your engine and the cabin. Anyway, with that being said, let's get the new one in and then we'll get to our outro. All right, guys, that is my video on doing all those maintenance items on the Subaru. Like I said earlier in the video, I did clean the PCV, so we'll include that service. The only thing I didn't do was the wheel alignment, and I'm not gonna recommend it because, like, I was looking at the tires, like the wear is like perfectly even, and like the suspension, you know, it's a 2017. The suspension, like, I didn't see any cracked bushings, leaks, whatever. 2017 has only 90,000 kilometers on it, so it's probably around like 60, 55,000 miles. And like I said, there's no wear on the tires, so I'm not gonna recommend for my cousin to get the wheel alignment. Yeah, so that's the only service we didn't do on it. So including the cleaning of the PCV valve or replacing it, the dealer would have charged $1,500 for all that stuff. I ended up charging him 650 bucks. So let me know in the comments below, would you guys do all those recommended repairs after seeing all the parts that came out? Really the only things that weren't like visibly damaged or worn was the serpentine belt and the wiper blades. So yeah, A, let me know below if you do all those repairs if it's your vehicle. B, let me know if you got a good deal or if I ripped them off. Anyway, thanks for watching my video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and have a good day.